decided to have some fun with 3 young Italian boys in the men's room.
Hello and welcome to the final Man from U.N.C.L.E. James Bond. I know.
Tragic.
I am Alice Caldwell-Kelly. I am joined as always by my friends Abigail Thorne and Devon.
Hey.
How's it going?
How you doing?
Good, thanks. Sad times. Sad time. Requiem for an uncle.
I know. It's the last one, and that's really sad. We're coming to the end of an era, and, you know, it's just for us to say...
Our uncle's gonna go sleepy by forever.
Oh, sad. It's sad.
Yeah.
We're out of the 60s. We're even out of the 80s. We're into 2015.
2015. Those
Remember
halcyon days. Remember before the fall? Remember 2015?
We didn't
remember
know
that.
how good we had it. And this movie is
Before
weirdly
9/11,
like
I'm pretty
before
sure.
the fall.
Yeah, before
Yeah,
9/11.
Like the bad guys are Nazis, and that's just like
Yeah.
they're bad. Like it's not like like a political thing. It's like they're just like, oh yeah, the Nazis, obviously they're evil. We can kill them and it's fine.
already from, like,
Whereas
a
now
slightly
that would be like,
different
oh, it's
time, yeah.
political. Like
Yeah.
what if
I mean,
those
yeah.
Nazis are defending women? You know, you never know. Why do they smell of soup?
I remember this movie when it came out, and I remember seeing it and enjoying it and thinking, this is a solid action movie. Give me 10 more of these.
Yeah, it was good.
I actually agree with that statement now. I just watched it and I was like, yeah, this was
I
fine.
do. I still do. I talked myself back into it, but I was like, no, give me 10 more of these. Give me a franchise of these. I would quite happily consume that. But what happened was, this was a massive box office bomb. It
Really?
lost like $100 million.
Really?
Wow.
And then
How?
it became, people didn't like it. People didn't go and see it. People didn't pay money for it. And then cancellation happened to it because this movie has an interesting cast, right? It's got Henry Cavill, it's got Alicia Vikander, it's got Hugh Grant,
Oh, yeah, it does.
and it's got Armie Hammer. Now,
Somebody
If you're
tweeted
not-
some shit at the British Medical Journal, and the film lost $100 million.
It's fine. I wouldn't worry.
if you're not familiar with Armie Hammer was cancelled for, I guess what we can describe as BDSM flavored sexual misconduct, allegedly.
Hmm.
And he was cancelled so comprehensively that it was one of the cancellations that actually stuck, at least until now. Like, right now, Armie Hammer is selling timeshares in Bermuda, I think. He's working as a tour guide part-time. Like, that really did, at least at time of recording, end his career.
I think
Which
he sent
is
a bunch
kind
of
of a
like
problem.
very inappropriate messages. There were, I think, allegations of sexual assault and rape.
Yeah,
he
and
was
sort
never
of, like,
charged.
Emotional abuse in a sort of more complicated BDSM sort of framework too. But yeah, so that's a problem given that they cast him as one of the 2 leads in this movie. But we don't know that yet. It's 2015. It's before the fall. We don't know that men can, like, abuse anyone,
Yeah,
right?
when was Me
We
Too?
think that Nazis are bad. I should have looked that up before we started recording this. Good question.
I think that was like
Let me pull that up.
contemporaneous or after.
Yeah, it's contemporaneous, right? Because
Yeah,
like there
it
had been a
started
couple of
2017.
Okay.
Is when it started. So
Wow,
yeah, this
okay.
is
So
we
this
are-
is 2 years prior to
so this movie
finding out
this
that
came
men
out
can
and we
be
were like,
abusive.
what? All
Culturally.
men are like sort of like earnest and upright. Nazis are bad.
Yeah,
you know,
uncontroversial point in 2015.
Yeah.
we probably
It's
didn't
nice, isn't
even
it?
know that like climate change was happening. I don't remember what I was doing in 2015. Watching this movie maybe.
I was definitely a twink in 2015. I
Definitely
don't need
was
to go
not
back.
as hot
I
as
thought I was a
am now.
twink too.
I had a
was
goatee
down.
in 2015. Like, it was a weird time.
I genuinely, like, every time I shave my face, I consider doing a goatee for just a second to, like, send the photo to you or something. But I can't do it. Thought I buried you, motherfucker.
But so this movie, I mean, first of all, this is a Guy Ritchie movie as well. And Guy Ritchie in
Yeah,
2015,
better and worse.
he was coming off of a long fallow period of making dreadful movies. Lucky Number 11, Rock and Roller. I remember all of these films, and this was his sort of like step back towards sort of like respectability.
I think it works. I mean, I think there's parts of it that I was like, oh, okay. And there's parts of it that I'm like, oh, all right, cool. I get what you're doing here. Like, it's definitely, if you like Guy Ritchie's style, it's definitely like distinctive.
Yeah, that's sort of my problem with it. But we'll get there. First of all, we begin after actually very nice opening titles. Not enough like 60s retro stuff like this, in my opinion.
I like this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. We begin sort of at the border between East and West Berlin, where Henry Cavill enters the frame. And Henry Cavill, here's a problem, right?
Henry Cavill enters the frame and occupies all of it.
Yeah, he got distractingly huge for this.
Well, I think he already was, because he was already Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe he was like coming down off of Superman back to like normal man, but like if you've seen him in The Witcher, right? He's smaller in The Witcher than he is in this by a lot. Like you would have to like add out the shoulders. He's like a third again more Henry Cavill than you would get because the economy or whatever. Everything's contracting, including Henry Cavill's.
Yeah, hearing that.
I remember when Henry Cavill was 10 feet.
Henry Cavill is expanded by 11%
one massive
this
Cavill
year.
that would like feed a family for 4 seasons. But also the fact that he's in suits for pretty much this entire movie, and the suits have like big shoulder pads and like narrow waists. He is shaped like the security Dorito. He is shaped like a Trivial Pursuit wedge. He's a very triangular looking man.
This is the movie that I would send to everyone who wants him to be the next Bond. Is just like, watch this. This is him giving Bond a solid go.
Yeah. This is his Bond audition. Yes. And like, he does a decent job.
He does pretty well. He does pretty well.
But
he's too famous. He doesn't need to be Bond now.
Yeah.
That's true. He's not set up to do like 10 years of the kind of abuse that playing Bond is.
You have to pick a relatively unknown young actor and ruin their life for a decade.
Traumatize them. Yeah. I'm just imagining though, on set for this movie, because this was back when like Henry Cavill, they were still trying to pass him off as a jock, right? When, we know better now.
We know.
Yeah.
On the set of this movie, you just imagine, or at least I do, Henry Cavill trying to get Armie Hammer into Warhammer, and he's just fucking DMing girls his cannibal fantasies, kind of like half listening, just like, yeah, Space Marines, cool.
Henry Cavill like earnestly like taking a supermodel back to his trailer and then just like earnestly explaining Warhammer to her for 2 hours. And she's like, "What is this?"
Yeah, I like to do the weathering like this. Yeah, it's like
she's like, "Put the ears on."
That chat.
Oh yeah. So he enters into East Berlin.
It's just funny to me to imagine like Armie Hammer just like in his dressing room. He's looking at his phone. He's got WhatsApp open. He's got like 10 unread messages from Henry Cavill that are all paragraphs of lore about Warhammer, and then he's got like 10 chats with women open where he's like, "Yo, I want to eat you." Portrait of a man.
Rapidly like closing one tab that's like about how after like in sort of serious injury but before death, the Space Marine is welded into a dreadnought to serve their chapter to be like to go back to his like consensual non-consent chat.
He's trying to harass women, and he just keeps getting messages from Henry Cavill that's like, "Yo, I saw that you were online, so here's the thing."
Forgot to set my Steam to invisible when I started playing shit, and now Henry Cavill is messaging me to ask if I want to play.
It's his special interest, like.
This is the thing. Like, Henry Cavill legitimately just seems like a lovely man.
I'm so glad he's going to make a Warhammer movie now. Like,
hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You king.
Yeah. But so they cast him as Napoleon Solo.
Yeah.
They crammed him into this suit. He is going to East Berlin. He goes to East Berlin to meet a mechanic, and he speaks German. His German accent, I know I'm one to talk, it's atrocious, but then the woman under the car goes, "Oh, your German accent's excellent," pops out of the car. It's Alicia Vikander, who is in this movie, and let me tell you something about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody involved in the making of this movie wanted to fuck Alicia Vikander so bad it made them look stupid. it's legitimately too much. Like she's a beautiful woman, right? I said that sort of in a Trump case. She's a beautiful woman.
One of the most
She's
beautiful of all
We're not-
time, folks.
She's hot. We're not disputing that, right? But it can begin to feel a little exploitative in this movie.
Yeah,
so-
I mean, they're never just like she's in lingerie in this scene. Like it's never like that explicit. They definitely treat other women worse, I think. But
Yes.
it's kind of it gives the
60s,
vibes
though.
of just like they're like constantly asking. I'm making this up, by the way. I'm not sure whether this is true, but it gives the vibe of we're on the phone to her agent asking like how much nudity can we do? Coming up to the line. Like
This is 2015. It was before intimacy coordinators were a thing. too.
yeah.
Oh wow, God, yeah, you're right.
But like this is Gabby Teller. She works as a mechanic, and Solo is going to try and get her out of East Berlin.
We get a classic Man from Uncle Plot because Napoleon Solo's like, hey, your father is a nuclear scientist who worked for the Nazis, but crucially was not one himself.
It's interesting.
He's gone
They
missing.
sort of
We need to find
acknowledge-
him. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, great.
They sort of acknowledge Operation Paperclip 4 minutes into this movie. It's just like, oh yeah, well, all of NASA was like former Nazis, but then kind of hedge it a bit and go, but he wasn't like really.
Wow.
She's
this
the
goes.
sexy, like 10 out of 10 smoke show baddie daughter that an original Man from Uncle would have introduced at like the 20-minute mark.
This is right to me. Like it's accurate. He beelined directly for the smoke show daughter. That was like a reverse Cinema Sins ding for me. I'm like, yes,
That's
uncle.
true.
Uncle moment.
And also, like, we don't know where he is, but your uncle might know, so we need to find him in Italy. And I'm like, great, yeah, it's good.
And when Solo starts speaking English, we see that Henry Cavill has spent a lot of time perfecting his Robert Vaughn.
Yeah.
And it's really.
Pretty
I have a
good.
drop here to give you a sample.
Well, I can get you over the wall. Do you consider that important, Fraulein Schmidt?
The vowel sounds in wall and that are pure Vaughn, and they're like really well
I
done.
really
It's
like
like
his
it's.
performance in this. He's like,
I know it's sexy voice. I mean,
yeah, he really has like gotten like, what if Robert Vaughn was huge?
Yeah,
What if that? Fuck.
yeah. And so he
Finally,
kind of
after
like
40 years of The Man from Uncle, they've actually cast a sexy, charismatic man as Robert Vaughn.
yeah. It took them a while, but they got there in the end.
Henry Cavill could have pulled off the shot in the first Man from Uncle film where they introduced Napoleon Solo and he's just standing normal.
God, I
Henry
think
Cavill
about
could have
that
made that
shot
work.
so much.
Yeah.
Dude. Like,
Yeah, 'cause Henry Cavill would have to be standing like that because of his muscles getting in the way of his other muscles
Yeah.
and like crowding.
I'm now imagining Henry Cavill as like other Robert Vaughn roles. Like I'm imagining him like walking into the Magnificent Seven sideways to make it through the doors.
I'm imagining him playing that surgeon who like botches a trans woman's FFS and then gets murdered by it.
Oh yeah.
Let's remake that.
So Gabby, this mechanic, Alicia Vikander, Gabby doesn't want to go with him, but he sort of forces her hand because he notices that they're being followed by the KGB, and she better fucking defect with him, otherwise.
Hanging from a pipe, having your toenails removed.
Which brings us once again full circle.
Come over here, Mr. Solo. You're about to be chained to a pipe.
Which I don't count it
It's
as a
like
formal
poetry.
callback.
A rhyme.
but It rhymes. It rhymes. It's all being chained to pipes, which is, I guess, also what Armie Hammer was trying to like DM women in between getting invites to like D&D games and shit.
Trousers of time, man. If only he'd picked that route instead of the.
Yeah.
So we see that he's being followed by Armie Hammer. We don't yet know this is Ilya Kuryakin, but it is. And we get
Wearing
this
a ridiculous hat.
We get this very tense scene where Gabby Schmidt is driving in the car and Robert Vaughn, I say Robert Vaughn because I just referred to the character, Henry Cavill
It's basically
is lying down
Big
in the
Robert
back
Vaughn.
seat hidden with a gun. And it's very, very tense. And like, Ilya pulls up alongside them and we get this like tense moment and then there's like a build up and then Henry Cavill like shoots him, but Ilya like dodges it. And yeah, it's very kind of, it's very well done.
We learn that like Ilya is like fast and physical.
And
Also,
very determined.
The thing about the pipes, like, it's a stupid little thing, but it did make me realize something, which is having just watched a bunch of the old Man from Uncle, we are coming to this from a perspective closer to the actors than most of the audience. Like, if you went to go and see this in 2015, you didn't watch all the made-for-TV Man from Uncle movies, but I bet you Henry Cavill did. Like, he had to get the Robert Vaughn voice from somewhere. So it's interesting having that sort of like different perspective to the one that we usually have. But so we get a chase scene. Ilya like drives a Trabant faster than I think is possible, which is very fun. Solo like is shown to just to try and kill him like by shooting him in the back. And we get a long sort of close up on Solo's eyes as if to emphasize, yo, this guy's a fucking killer, which is cool.
We see throughout this that like Ilya is extremely determined. Like he gets beaten and like thrown off the scent many times, and he comes back and Solo's just like, Jesus, this guy like doesn't quit. There's even there's a really nice moment. It's like good way of using action to establish character where Schmidt and Solo are driving away, and Ilya like runs after them like fucking Terminator 2 and like hangs on to the back of the car, which is like futile. He's not going to stop the car, and like Henry Cavill's just looking at him, and Schmidt goes like, "Why don't you shoot him?" And Henry Cavill's like, "It doesn't seem like it would be the right thing to do." And like Ilya like rips the boot off the back of the car.
So good.
It's such a nice moment.
It's just like, huh.
Most of what's selling that for me is less sort of Armie Hammer's physicality, although he does have a lot of that. He's also a big dude in this movie. It's a big dude movie.
He is. He's a bigger dude than Henry Cavill. You get a couple of shots of them next to each other, and it's like, Henry's a big boy. Armie, he's a big boy.
This is Armie Hammer's audition for Bond as well. He's doing Daniel Craig Bond in this.
It's Henry Cavill's sort of like wry, amused, like Robert Vaughn smug tone that really carries it, where he like looks back out of the window, sees him rip the trunk off the car and goes like, oh, he's trying to stop the car, which is like, I could listen to this all day. You know, this is great stuff. Ultimately, after this chase scene, Gabby, Napoleon make their escape, leave Ilya humiliated. We also see, by the way, that he gets briefed by his KGB handler about Napoleon Solo, which is how we find out about Napoleon.
Yeah, we have a bit of a different backstory to Napoleon than normal, which is that he was a very famous art thief who then ended up getting caught and recruited by the CIA.
Yes. They actually give him very, very close to Robert Maxwell's youth, being in the US Army and like occupied Berlin and sort of like double dealing and stuff.
Every time I'm recording one of these episodes with you, I zone out very slightly, and I always come back to Alice being like, Robert Maxwell or some shit like this. I'm like, huh? Wait.
I have a real Alice moment for you later on in this one.
Christ,
this one, it took me out of the movie entirely, and I wrote down like a long note about it. But so Solo takes Gabby back to West Berlin. And we meet with his boss at the CIA.
Yeah. Certified guy I love to see.
Yay!
Jared Harris. Fucking
Jared
Don.
Harris, you may remember Lane Price from Mad Men, Valery Legasov in Chernobyl.
Oh, what a
I
fucking
love
role.
this guy. I love to see him. One thing I don't love to see is when they make him do an American accent.
Oh, I loved his accent in this because it's kind of a little bit cartoony, and I kind of like that.
Yeah.
He's like,
It's wrong in the right way to me.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's not an American accent, but it's like fun, you know?
Yeah.
He takes him to a public toilet where he immediately makes a sort of double entendre about drinking piss.
Nice. Yeah.
Where he like unzips and goes,
What I'm about to feed you, Solo, might taste a little bitter. Nevertheless, you're gonna have to swallow it.
sort of, it's a very, very sort of like double entendre movie. It's an immature script in a lot of ways, I find.
It's kind of fun.
I like it.
That's kind of about as immature as it gets.
I know, but like, I don't know. I'm not saying it has to be sort of like Zero Dark 30 or anything, but like, I have a large number of bizarrely horny drops from this movie.
Decided to have some fun with 3 young Italian boys in the men's room.
You know, but so the surprise is not that he has to drink Jared Harris's piss. The surprise is that Ilya is there. And you're going to be partners. You have to work together.
Yeah, they have this fight in the men's room, and then Ilya's boss
like
comes in, the kind of
Royale.
M equivalent, who for Gogol, I guess, comes in, and it's just like, don't kill your partner on the first day. And it's like, what? We're working together? Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that they just get that out of the way right at the very start. They're just like, all right. Yeah, I just appreciate this.
It's an efficient script.
So they have a briefing outside in a cafe,
No
like a
projector,
crowded cafe
sadly.
in the park. No, instead they just hand them pictures. And the first thing they do is they go, and this is really an uncle thing. Here is a Polaroid picture of a 10 out of 10 smoke show baddie.
Yes.
This is the other actress appearing in this movie. And guess what?
lethal combination of beauty, brains, and ambition.
Yes.
Just like this podcast.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, so this is the villain of the film. Her name is Victoria. She is a lethal combination of beauty, brains, and ambition. My notes say lol. So
If I speak,
She's also a Nazi.
and blonde. Yeah, no, yes.
And this is
yes.
I'm holding the spray bottle. I brought this from home. And I still have this
It's
from the
been a
last
while.
live shows.
Yeah.
I've been keeping this thing like taped to the underside of my desk like a sink gun, just in case. And I needed it
She's
at
also
this
not
moment,
American.
you know.
She is British. Although I have been also known to simp for British blondes named Victoria. But
sure.
so there are fascists,
This is
Nazis.
This is Victoria Vinciguerra, who is the daughter of an Italian fascist, who is working with like Gabby the mechanic's uncle, who is also a Nazi, and her father, who was not a Nazi but has been coerced in order to obtain a nuclear weapon for the secret Fourth Reich.
Yeah, because
right?
her
That's right.
father, Gabby's father, has found a new way to enrich uranium like really easily. And he's storing that method on a computer disk. So find him and the computer disk, or the Vinciguerras and whoever they work for are going to have a nuclear power, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And also, because this is
they-
such a threat to the world, we have to work with the KGB to do this. Hence, you two are together.
And then they go, okay, they put them into the big sort of like get along shirt and then go, great, have fun. And then in a visual gag, I really
love
like
this joke.
everybody else in the restaurant like gets up with them and like splits in half, and you like figure out that like everyone else there is like working for them.
That was a really good
really
joke.
like
That was
that.
really nice.
there's also
It's a good gag.
the moment Armie Hammer starts speaking, I wrote, "Oh no," because that's not a fantastic Russian accent.
Russian Gajovich. I guess.
from
I mean,
Uncle.
one
I mean,
thing-
what was David McCallum's accent? It's fine.
Well,
Yeah,
he
it
didn't
wasn't
do one,
good,
but that was
no,
the
but it was
thing. Like, it
milder,
was a
I
character
suppose.
choice I appreciated. That like David McCallum didn't really try and do a Russian accent. Like he inflected things a bit, but like mostly it was just his regular voice. And like Armie Hammer instead talks like this. He talks like Milo Edwards' impression of a Russian man.
Milo Edwards has lived in Russia, and therefore, presumably, his impression is like reasonably accurate.
And is also, a professional comedian who does impressions. Sure, I'm not disputing that it's like probably a fine accent, right? But it takes you out of the movie a bit.
Yeah,
And it feels a bit sort of like
it's one of those ones where it's like
Like-
it's like Downton Abbey, right? The accents they use in Downton Abbey aren't accurate to the period, because if you actually
Yes.
did an accurate one, it would seem weird. So this
I
might
was-
be
I was
very
about to
accurate,
sort
but
of like-
it's still nevertheless
yeah.
a bit like, oh,
it's not screen accurate.
It's my contention is obviously Cavill has prepared for this role, and he's doing an impression of Vaughn.
Robert Vaughn.
That's the voice. Armie, he's not doing an impression of Ilya Kuryakin. He's not doing like McCallum. He's sort of he's doing Russian Gajovich.
well, because as we learn, there's a very different take on Ilya for this film, because they have this banter, and they've each read each other's files. So it's just like, I've read your file, you're like this, this, and this. And Solo kind of runs circles around Ilya here, because Ilya gives him some like very mild banter, and Solo reveals his backstory, which I quite like.
Solo goes
Yeah.
step one. Your mom's a hoe. Right.
Yeah, just like out the gate.
Like
Rude.
fully just like a bunch of Politburo guys were fucking on your mum. Second of all, your dad was like a big Stalin hardliner and got gulagged by Khrushchev, which is sort of politically intriguing. And therefore, because of the shame of this, that presumably drove you to like join the KGB and be the best killer they've got and be super determined. But he also says, and suffers from psychotic episodes. Now, one thing that a psychotic episode is in the movies is it makes you really angry.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes,
you know what else
rage
it is in this
problems.
movie? Nothing else.
That's
it's
it.
just you get mad, you get angry sometimes.
A psychotic episode is when someone provokes you and you're upset by it.
Yeah. It's gratuitously wrong and insulting.
What is it having never known anyone who's, to my knowledge, had a psychotic episode? What is the accurate version of this?
it is sort of like you experience sort of like very florid and immediate delusions. You're like, oh, the walls of this bus are covered in like blood, which is also electrified, kind of thing. It's like not a pleasant experience as I understand it. It's an intense one. It's also like not like something irretrievable or something that like makes you like worth less as a person. Some of my best friends have like experienced this. It's like, I don't know, it's all part of the broad spectrum of human mental health, right? It's like an unpleasant thing, but one that's like,
like
manageable.
it's
under the right
more
conditions.
hallucinatory than like emotional.
Yeah, you
like
just
it's
kind of like
portrayed in this
take leave
movie.
of like consensus reality for a bit.
Yeah.
And it's like certainly it's not always like a violent thing. It's not even always like an anger-inducing thing. It can be like frightening, certainly. But like, yeah, in this case, what it means is he starts hearing ominous Russian music when he thinks about his parents. And then that makes him get mad, and he goes kind of like Kyle mode, and he like breaks drywall.
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah. He has like rage problems with this. And this is like a very different take on Ilya, but I kind of like it because I suppose for introducing our two characters as an origin story, we need them to conflict. They can't both be kind of like suave people. So we've got Napoleon Solo, who's like very suave and controlled, and then it kind of makes sense that like Ilya is absolutely out of control, furious, not at all kind of like polished or anything. So
yeah,
I
I'm not
liked
wedded
this
to
as a
like
choice.
McCallum. Yeah, I'm not wedded to like McCallum's depiction of Ilya Kuryakin as a character at all. I think this is fine, aside from the mental health part, which isn't. Yeah, but like an angry Ilya, fine, cool, let's do it.
And we also continue this into the
so-
next scene where Solo and Schmidt are talking about what her cover is going to be when they go to Rome. She's buying dresses to fit into the cover. And Ilya comes in and
there's
he's
one
not
little
at all
detail
smooth
here.
with her. He's very just kind of sexist.
He's like, oh, we're going to be married now. But there is one little detail here, which is Alicia Vikander, when she's trying on these dresses, she's like sort of like forcing herself into these heels and stuff. This movie has a huge foot fetish, by the way. It's like Tarantino-esque. But she's like struggling to walk in these things. The problem with this is that Alicia Vikander looks too much like Alicia Vikander to sell me on I don't know how to dress femme, right? Like it just doesn't work.
Yeah, you can put her in the mechanic thing at the start, but like, she looks more out of place in
like,
that than she does in this
so
designer
butch.
dress.
It's like no, high femme. No, it's like no, sorry.
So the cover
But
is that Alicia Vikander, Schmidt, and fucking Army McCallum, Kuryakin, they're posing as a couple to go to Rome, right? So she's going to be like,
right.
oh, this like Uncle Nazi, this is my new fiance who isn't a spy. Like, tell us where my father is.
Yeah, he's a Soviet architect who has been sent to Rome to study the architecture.
Meanwhile, Solo has been told, go and fuck Victoria somehow. Just make it happen.
Yeah,
Get in there.
go and like put your dick in things. Have fun with it and be yourself.
Go get a king.
Yeah, exactly. And we see that Ilya has one thing that we carried over from the previous ones, which is back in the previous generation of Uncle, when he was designing clothes for the dolls, he's still got it.
Quite nice.
He's still like a bit of a fashionista.
Yeah, he's still like fashion minded. I like this. Again, that's another reverse CinemaSins thing.
It's quite cute that they disagree. They have this like little argument between them about women's fashion. It's just quite a fun.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that Dior doesn't work with that belt.
Yeah.
And it's
Ilya's
fun.
like,
It's
not supposed to. She's an architect's like fiance. She's not meant to be super fashionable. It's meant to clash. And it's like, oh, that's quite good.
Yeah. And so we go to Rome. And I think this is the first point at which Hugh Grant stumbles across the screen shouting, I'm Mr. Waverly. I'm going to be Mr. Waverly. My name is Waverly, like from the previous things. Get a little like cameo there.
We get a nice little, I mean, another movie might not have done this, but we get a nice scene where Gabby and Ilya are strolling around Rome, posing as a couple. And even though there's no need to, he bullshits her because she's like, you're a Russian architect, all right, tell me about the architecture, you've done your research. And he like bullshits her some story about how the steps they're walking on were designed, and she like obviously sees through it. And it's quite a cute moment, actually.
Yeah. At which point, arriving on a Vespa is Napoleon Solo to destroy this man's self-confidence. Napoleon has adopted a policy here of following the guy around, razzing him like from a Vespa,
On a moped.
which is
That's basically what he does
perfect.
for like half the movie.
perfect, like on board. I would have watched an hour and a half of just this.
100%.
Just like
Turns
yeah.
up on a Vespa, owns you, and goes vroom, drives away. Like,
yeah, and goes, "Did you know you're being followed?"
Mhm.
And Ilya goes, "Yes." And Napoleon says, "Okay, well they're going to try and rob you, but you can't defend yourself because you're supposed to be a Soviet architect, not a Soviet spy.
it's a test.
They're trying to find out if you're a Soviet spy." And then we get a kind of a line that I think is out of character for Napoleon, where he just says,
Take it like a pussy.
which again,
Yeah, it's not
curiously
right.
suggestive, doesn't really fit with the suaveness.
Doesn't gel.
On the other hand,
Yeah.
it's very funny that he's just trash talking him like that. You know, he's got a sort of gamer headset on. He's on the Vespa. He's just like, your mum's a fucking
Scott
slut.
Caddy is
dude."
on the headphones.
Yeah.
Femboy Henry Cavill gamer.
No.
What is,
No.
This is so good.
In another life.
Yeah. So Ilya goes with Gabby to go and get robbed, and he kind of holds it together.
I like this scene. It's good.
Yeah, it's like a classic in the genre of they're fucking with the wrong guy, but he has to like not show them his like power level. But they like take his wristwatch, and this is his father's wristwatch, and this makes him hear the Russian music, and he like effortlessly punches one guy in the throat and like breaks his cover.
Also, they take the fake engagement ring that he gave to Alicia Vikander, and he's also upset about that. And they spit in his face, and he does like effortlessly punch one of them in the face, but then like the other guy pulls a gun, and he has to kind of control himself and leave it. I like this. It's like a
He has
tense.
to like change his mind,
Yeah.
and it's like he doesn't really like sort of, and it's a bit inconsistent. But so they make off with all this stuff. Solo arrives on the
Boom.
moped. It's like
Nice work,
that.
dipshit.
vroom, that went like
Vroom, vroom,
shit,
vroom,
didn't
vroom.
it?
What's up, cunt? Fuck.
Hearing
This
like
guy.
Bugs Bunny to just own Army.
Bastard.
It's a better implementation of like Bugs Bunny than Shoot 'em Up was. It's great. But Ilya gets a fun line here, which is like, I'm a Russian. A Russian architect would have beat them up. A Russian spy would have killed them. What do you want me to do? And he's like upset. But he's sort of like Russian mode about his watch.
Mm. At this point in the film, we need to be like, but does Napoleon get pussy though? So we kind of
He do get pussy.
this is
though,
kind of
is the
unnecessary.
thing. Mhm.
Because the concierge
He gets like hotel pussy,
yeah.
like Bond.
trying to
like
make
Bond
a
would do.
reservation at the hotel pussy. They don't take British debit cards. It's really annoying. So the concierge, who's obviously a 10 out of 10 smoke shop baddie, brings up some champagne, and Solo's just like, it's a nice bottle of champagne. I'd be ashamed to drink it alone. And obviously he gets pussy.
Mhm.
And then later on, we see this woman's ass from behind in lingerie, and it's like, I don't think they had that kind of lingerie in the 1960s, for one thing.
No. And like all bullet bras and like giant slips and stuff.
Yeah,
But,
so
mm.
bit kind of gratuitous, nudging up the M score.
Yes, yeah.
But meanwhile,
No, it's a desperately horny movie, and it's
Yeah.
gonna get hornier in the next scene, which is
but I think the next scene kind of does it well, which I quite like. This is a difficult scene to
Ilya-
play, but the two actors
Yeah.
in this do a good job, I think.
well, this
Ilya
is horny
is
for
trying
character
to, like-
development, whereas the other one was horny for character establishment, just slightly different.
Yeah. Ilya's trying to have like a nice quiet game of chess. And you can tell that they think they're being so clever with the fact that he's Russian, but he doesn't drink. He like refuses a glass of vodka like a bunch of times because Alicia Vikander is trying to get turned. And she is also trying to get the Kuryakin dick. And he is not interested.
Yeah, it's
Um,
interesting because, like, I think this is partly in the way it's played and partly in the way it's been written, is that he turns down the drink and we understand, oh, he knows he can't get out of control. He's like trying to fucking keep a lid on this. And it's like, ooh, interesting.
Yeah, and she's like provoking him. She's like, what if you had sex with me right now?
Yeah, what if I made you so angry we had
She is
sex? Like,
every bottom who has ever like fucking tried to do this shit, and he does get a little top in his voice. He gets a little like,
Don't you make me put you over my knee.
which is an interesting line because I want to talk about this a bit because
Don't
Army
you
Hammer
make
had
me put
like,
you over my
don't you make me
knee.
put you over my knee.
Alright.
Army Hammer had kind of like positioned himself in this space where between like this and like enthusiastically talking about auditioning for 50 Shades of Grey and the time he like accidentally reblogged a rope bondage tutorial, like I had friends who had massive crushes on Armie Hammer, and it was because he was trying to be like the BDSM hunk, right, at a time when that was becoming more acceptable. And you know, like
misguided branding.
part of being the BDSM hunk was like the enthusiastic consent BDSM hunk, something which would then be, you know, thoroughly put the lie to. But it's something that is like bolstered in this scene by him like getting to like put Alicia Vikander to bed when she like falls down drunk, because he's like, he's good about consent. He's like a trustworthy hunk. He's like a big, nice dude who maybe wants to tie you up. And it's like,
there is this.
Well, maybe
there's
not.
this moment where they like play wrestle, and we get a shot which is in a lot of films, but I think this one's particularly good. Where like she's on top of him, and they're like getting closer and closer. It's like, ooh, are they going to kiss? Are they going to kiss? And they handle it really, really well. And then she like is just about to kiss him, and then she like falls asleep over his shoulder. And we see him go, God damn it, and then kind of pick her up. And it's like, oh, it's a really good example of that kind of scene. And I think credit to the actors involved there for selling it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everything else ignored. The Trustworthy Hunk is a great screen name.
That's true. I had a sort of a brutal joke here, which you may have to cut, which is, yeah, it really does credit Armie Hammer, because he had to really go like out of himself and portray.
Ooh,
Yeah, we will be cutting that one.
I would just bleep over the punchline, I think, and then audience, you can imagine what that joke was.
Joke, yeah.
Yeah, like joke. I'm just doing this. I'll do a sort of like a libelous joke. It's fine. But so the next morning,
It's okay to do a room joke.
Solo like kicks this woman out of bed and immediately starts finding tracking devices fucking everywhere. He's got one like in his alarm clock, like in his. You expect him to like find one like under his foreskin and be like, "What the fuck?"
God
like,
damn it. Yeah, he's pulling them out of everywhere, and then he like goes to Ilya's room. It's just like, these are Russian.
Yeah, he like throws them at him, which is really funny. And then Ilya like goes back in the room, brings all of the bugs that he has planted on Ilya, and like throws them back at him. It's a really fun gag. It's fun. And yeah, it's
this really petty moment as Solo's walking away. He goes, "That bow tie doesn't work with our suit."
And then they land this joke because the next shot is Ilya outside, and you see he has changed his tie.
It's so good. It's really good,
funny.
actually.
It's just a catty little thing. It's beautiful.
We also get another nice moment where Alicia Vikander, because they're going to go to a big villain party, right, and see Uncle Nazi. And Ilya has a new engagement ring for her, and she's like, it's this kind of sweet moment where like she says, "But it was stolen last night. I wouldn't be wearing an engagement ring. It doesn't match our cover." And he goes, "Well, you know, your fiance in the cover story loves you so much that he went out first thing and got you a new one." It's like, oh, sweet.
So at this point we go to Evil Party, and I think first we see Gabby and Kuryakin, and they meet with Uncle Nazi, and Uncle Nazi predictably cannot go 5 minutes without saying some Nazi shit.
Yeah.
He's like, man, eugenics.
It's just like that guy in the fucking Roger Moore Bond film was just like, "Have you ever thought about breeding the superhuman?" It's like an opener to Roger Moore. So yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah, he's like he genuinely, his opening gambit is like where some like uncles or whatever would be like, you know, sort of like assembling a gun on the coffee table or whatever. He's like, have you ever thought about like your inferior Slavic blood? And this, of course, sets off the Russian music.
Yeah, because he's insulting his parents, which we know is a sensitive point.
The whole of like the whole of like both reels of Come and See are playing on the inside of Ilya's eyelids at this point. He is like, yeah, Come and See. It's a like Belarusian, well, Soviet Belarusian war movie. Like
COME. I genuinely misunderstood. I thought it was CUM and SEA. I was like, what?
Yeah. The Belarusian war movie about come and see.
Yeah. Sex on a submarine. So,
And he excuses himself because he's like, oh, I have to go and be psychotic somewhere else now. Because one major feature of psychotic episodes is you can exercise a great deal of control about where you have them. And you can just kind of go, I'm going to go and take this out on some Italian twinks, which I don't advise.
Hey, fair's fair.
In real life.
I do want to acknowledge, though, that this is, as far as I can tell, the first movie that I've ever seen where they go, you're too huge to be your cover.
Yes,
because
nice.
I watched the fucking The Rock movie about him in a skyscraper, and he's just like an insurance guy, and it's just unrealistic because my boy is wide as a fucking barn, and everyone he's across from in any scene isn't just going, "Hey man, you're fucking massive." I don't know if you noticed this.
Yeah. At one point, the Uncle Nazi even says to him, just like, "You're an architect? You're built like a power lifter," and he goes,
"Yeah, exactly.
I like to jog."
It's so good. It's like, brother, you're huge, dog. I have made you
almost as like Schwarzenegger delivery of like I like to jog. Nice guy, Sally. I like you.
It's funny.
So he goes into the bathroom. There's 3 Italian twinks in there, just Italianing it up. And you know he fucking kills them. Like he beats the shit out of them off screen. He does the Casino Royale fight scene, the opening one, to these twinks. And you know, just to get it out of his system. Meanwhile,
Solo is sneaking into the party. We see that he bumps into Hugh Grant on the way in. It's like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and Hugh Grant's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in the film."
Hugh Grant like stumbles over himself, like, I'm Alexander Waverly.
I'm Hugh Grant.
Oh, my name's Waverly. I'm in the film, and it's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, cool."
I'm really entering my Silver Fox phase. You know, Devon's gonna have some feelings about it.
I'm holding off.
No, you don't. You don't have to. We can get into this now. You turning the big spotlight Devonwards.
Me? Devon? Just because I'm unbelievably horny for Hugh Grant? That seems like an unfair thing to do to me. On the record.
Yeah. Can't say some things.
Talk about a guy who's into BDSM.
I don't have to worry. I'm not.
We are now back in, having finished the libel portion of the podcast. And at this point, Napoleon Solo, man after my own heart, meets a blonde woman named Victoria and is very horny and does everything he can to impress her.
She is a Nazi, and more than that, she looks like if Lady Gaga had like too much buccal fat removed. She, like, I simply do not see it.
I mean, no, like, she's you know, a beautiful woman. She looks like a film star. But yeah. Anyway, I think it's the attitude.
I'm not feeling the urge to rend. I'm simply not.
I mean, neither am I. I think that. We have to bleep that.
But what we get though is he like Solo does a sort of like job interview, right, where he like just steals a bunch of shit. Solo steals a bunch of shit in front of Victoria and then like hands it back to her like, "Nah, I'm a thief, by the way. You can tell by the way I stole that shit."
This is where the movie reveals its like most annoying foible, which is showing you shit you've already seen like seconds ago to be like, actually something clever was happening here that you didn't catch. And I'm like, fuck off.
Yeah, it's because you didn't show it to me. It's a visual medium.
And tell.
You're in charge of what I see, man. I don't know how to tell you this.
Don't show me, tell me later. Like,
it's like, what?
the sort of the Guy Ritchie touches, the like flashbacks, the on-screen subtitles for foreign languages, not being able to hold a shot for more than 3 seconds, like they all weaken the movie far more than any of the like Guy Ritchie shit that he adds to it. And like the thing about Guy Ritchie, right, is that at some point in his career he may have to confront the fact that he is a guy who had one movie in him, and he made that movie twice, and it was good the first time. It was okay the second time, and then everything else has been a commercial. And it's edited like a commercial, it looks like a commercial.
I don't know, I disagree. I think there are parts of this film where the Guy Ritchie-ness of it really works, and we'll get into this later in the very kind of final half hour. But anyway, so Solo meets Victoria, and she's immediately like horny because she's like,
will you come over and fuck my pussy?
Yeah.
Like, she basically says it's like a sub-Bond level entendre. She's like, why don't you come over to my office tomorrow and we can talk about filling the gaps in my collection, and by collection I mean pussy, and by filling I mean fucking with your penis. And he goes, oh, okay, sure. Which...
meanwhile,
Okay.
Alexander, who is a fascist and is Victoria's husband, hits on
the fail son.
hits on Gabby,
Mhm.
and obviously makes Ilya mad, and then they leave.
Yes.
Ilya figures out that Ilya's got special camera film and figures out they've been standing near something
Yes.
radioactive. He's like, right, they're definitely
But also,
enriching uranium.
crucially, this is the point at which this movie is like, yo, Alicia Vikander, she got feet though. Like,
Really?
this
I didn't
whole
know.
scene, she's got two. Yeah, they're at the end of her legs, and she's like got them right up there.
Probably why I didn't
like,
notice.
on
My
a
eyes were
chair.
going the other way.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Mother.
it's different strokes, right? But like, she's like fully unedited dialogue.
Expensive feet.
Man, oh shit! Sorry. The end of the previous scene is where we get a fucking sound clip to end the scene. A little sting that caused me to have the podcaster's equivalent of PTSD because it makes this noise. Fuck off! You're not fucking Bond.
Not
you
giving you a
can't
haircut,
end
James
the goddamn
Bond,
scene
cunt.
with the fucking like, ooh, Bond shit just happened noise, motherfucker. You think I wouldn't catch this?
This is Guy Ritchie's audition for Bond.
Yeah. So they look at the film, and Ilya, who has just opened a perfectly good door into a dark room where the light is on, goes, yeah, okay, fuck it, boys' night.
Yeah, I don't
You
know
and
what
me,
the
we're
fuck
gonna-
he was doing there.
Yeah,
Oh
we're
no,
gonna break into.
they don't
like,
tell each other, but then they go to break into this
you're right.
factory, and then they find it's quite cute. They both find out that the other one is breaking in, and they have a kind of like, well, I'm not going home. Like, I guess we're gonna have to break in together. Dick measuring contest where Solo is like clipping through the wire fence with clippers, and then Ilya just like is using a laser.
It's an
Yeah, I
interesting
like it.
recurring bit in this that the Soviets always have better technology.
But
It's
the
an
Americans
interesting
have better
reversal.
skills, is the vibe. So like, so
Yeah.
Ilya's trying to pick a lock, and Solo just like does it effortlessly. And we see like the beginnings of them working together. It's nice.
Yeah, they give each other nicknames, Peril and Cowboy,
Yeah.
respectively. Also, at this point, Kuryakin calls Solo a suka, which I think they did not know how intense that is in Russian.
What does it
Yeah,
It's
mean?
very
no.
funny. Fully dropping like a
wow.
hard F slur.
What the fuck?
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, close enough. I mean, it means
Stupid.
bitch, but like in a context of like a prison bitch. But so calls him a suka, finds a dude he thinks has his watch, like perfectly like slaps him unconscious on his feet, which is a fun bit.
I like the.
They
I like
get
that
to
bit,
a-
yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. They get to a vault, and Solo gets to do his like master safecracker thing where he like opens the vault very smugly.
Ba-da-ba-da.
Don't open that
Only to
vault.
set off.
Don't look
he
into the
sets off
vault.
yeah, fuck me. Yeah, this is where he got his fear of vaults.
Opens that vault. It's like, ooh.
Alice's
You get
husband is in
really-
there.
It becomes inseparable from the vault. Like, there's just no way to draw a distinction. I like the way the camera's on the vault door, so when he opens it, it swings around to show Ilya's reaction. I think that's nice.
Yeah.
fun.
You see, there's some
Fun,
nice little
stylish.
touches, and Ilya goes, "What about the alarm?" And Solo goes, "This model doesn't have an alarm." And then it, boo, boo, and it's like nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we get sort of like what is I guess sort of part gunfight, part chase, and there's a moment that both incapacitates
empty.
Devon and me.
Man, oh my god. When I was watching this fucking movie, I watched this movie and I put in the group chat, hey, I need you to go to exactly 57:30 and let it play for a few seconds. Because there's a freeze frame, and I don't know if it was intentional, but as Napoleon Solo is like running up the staircase, it's like a dark room, there's a gunshot, and that like muzzle flash lights the room up. But for some reason it holds on that like frame for like half a second, and it makes this like cartoon bullet
Yeah, it
ricochet
goes like,
noise.
Pew!
It's so weird.
I'm not doing a voice. It literally sounds like me going like pew, like, and it's just like all you see in the shot is the bullet hitting the wall and Solo's ass.
Yeah, perfectly in focus, just like from a dark room, like one white frame, just like holding the whole thing. It's. I cannot express to you how funny this is. Genuinely. Like, if you have a spare moment, please look at this. I'll see if I can
tweet
find a way to
out the
post
frame?
it. Maybe. If this is on YouTube, I'll be able to do it. I can't do it on Amazon because of their fucking
We get
black screen shit.
we get a boat chase, and Solo immediately goes overboard. Ilya doesn't notice. He's doing like powerboat shit. And we get what I think the film intends to be like a big comedy scene, which is Solo like makes his way into a truck intending to just leave Ilya to it. And he finds a guy's lunch. And because this is Italy, it's got like a nice bottle of Chianti and like a beautiful sandwich. And he like sort of tucks the napkin into his collar and he's like really enjoying this. And then he sees like Ilya's in trouble and like his boat has sunk. And he sort of like very reluctantly, he like sacrifices his lunch that he's like really visibly enjoying. And it's fun, but it's like, it's so pleased with itself too.
It is, but
in a way that's sort of like out of character.
He like drives the truck over the pier onto the enemy boat and squashes them. It's nice though because it's starting to show character development. Again, it's using action to show the development of the character that he's like, okay, I will give up this thing and we also know that because we've seen it established that Napoleon Solo is a fancy bitch. Like he grates truffles into his pasta. Like he likes the finer things. He loves his food. And he's like, okay, I'm going to give this up to save Ilya's life. And it's like, oh, that is actually quite nice. Like the writing for this is quite nicely done. It was done by Guy Ritchie and also the guy who wrote like a lot of the other Harry Potter films after like Goblet of Fire. And it's like, oh, like kind of weird. This script like really, really works, I think.
I guess the other thing is this is the origin of one of my favorite pieces of film criticism, which is Nathan Rabin's review of this in the AV Club, where he says that this film doesn't like this scene doesn't make sense to him because Henry Cavill looks like he only eats creatine.
Yes, that's true. I'm like, there's no way this man eats a sandwich.
This man's never had a slice of bread in his goddamn life.
A single carb. No,
Come on,
absolutely
he'll die.
not. Yeah. But so what happens then is they have to rush back to the hotel because Victoria's suspicions are aroused. And she's like calling
It's not
Solo,
the only thing of
trying to,
Victoria's that's aroused in this scene.
Yeah, her suspicions and also her are aroused. And her pussy is aroused. So she's trying to call Solo to figure out if he's the one who like fuck you, broke into their fucking vault.
They gave me access to it again, baby.
and he makes it home at the last second to like play it off nonchalantly and have sex with her, which is fine. The movie kind of drags at this point. There's a little Guy Ritchie bullshit touches. Like there's a lot of like soundtrack montages that like scream like car commercial to me, and then she like silences the soundtrack and so on.
Yeah, there's a lot of like little touches like that, and it feels a little bit like, okay, I guess you kind of this is clever and it works, but I wonder if this is like you didn't or wouldn't get the coverage that would have made it stitched together like continuously. It's kind of seems like a way of getting around that is you film a lot of very disparate things and then you kind of edit them together in a way that works. And like you've got a very good editor, so it does work. But I'm like,
It's not quite that.
All right,
She's also wearing
act of the second act structure.
She's also wearing big like ball earrings, and I wrote, "Look out, Napoleon! She's got Patara," and I just don't know if that's funny or not, but I liked it.
Look at a fuse.
Sure. So at this point, we're set up for Alicia Vikander to be like almost naked again. And she's like, I have to go, you're taking me to infiltrate this thing, but the tracking device attached to my pussy is deactivated. Can you reach up onto my skirt and like switch the big button next to my clit on?
No, she walks into the scene and then steps up onto the table. And it's like, I need someone to touch my pussy now for the movie. And I was like, all right.
It's like on her thigh, and it has like a big switch on it. And it's like, you can turn that on yourself. Like. Or better yet, instead of like taking it off your thigh, giving it to him, he switches the switch, and then you put it back on your thigh. Mm-hmm. But instead, we have to have this moment where like Ilya is like reaching up her skirt, and they have like a moment of intimacy. They almost kiss.
There's like a Connery level line here where she's like, what are you doing down there? And he's like, trying not to get loshed.
Because your pussy's so massive? What?
Yeah.
What?
I think I might be in your uterus.
Get loshed up your uterus. Interesting.
Then Solo gets a much better line when Solo comes back in and he goes, all turned on? I quite like.
So Solo's going to go meet with Victoria. Gabby is gonna go meet with her Nazi uncle again to try and find her dad, and like Ilya's gonna follow her and like listen to the recording device in her pussy.
Mm.
And at this point, we find out that she gets to the meeting and she's been using sex to misdirect them. 2015 feminism. She like gets in the thing and she goes, yeah, actually the guy is a KGB agent.
Yeah, but we do it in. This is where the Guy
this is
Ritchie just
filmed
doesn't work.
fucking annoying.
Fucking like flashback shit where like she says, like what she says is cut out, and then we see Ilya running, and then we flash back to her saying it like 2 minutes after.
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's not
weird.
even the worst offender of this, but it's really annoying.
Yeah, it's unusual decision given that we immediately find out what's happening. It's like there was enough suspense already. Like anyway, meanwhile, Solo is meeting with Victoria, and she's like on the phone, and she's
Victoria has activated femdom mode at this point.
Mother.
She. Yeah.
Sorry, I've got the
she's-
mother drop. I need to stop hitting the mother
No,
drop.
it's
he says it in
fine.
this scene. She's mother.
She like cool, she like goes, pour yourself a drink. He drinks the drink, goes, I see you've roofied me. I'm gonna lie down on this couch now. And she like lies down next to / on
there's
top
a really
of him.
funny moment where he like puts a pillow under his head and lies down on the couch, and she says, "What are you doing?" He says, "I've been in this situation before. Last time I fell and I hit my head, so I'm just gonna lie down."
Yeah, and she her riposte to that is, well, nothing's gonna save you from getting hurt this time, which the diamonds. But
So she,
and then her voice work wears off because he's getting drugged, so he hears her go,
Mummy says hello.
pitch control always difficult, I hear.
Yeah, when Victoria
Neither.
says "mummy," it's good shit. So because
good shit.
says no, she says good night, Napoleon. He says nobody calls me Napoleon except my mother, and then he wakes up and she says, "Mummy says hello." Yeah, hello.
You get a fun little moment, which is he's like, "How did you know I was going to drink the whiskey?" And she's like, "Oh, I roofied every drink in this room.
Mm-hmm.
You were going to drink something, big boy."
What if he just said no thanks?
Yeah, really
You
needed
do.
like a sort of like an outtake or something over the credits where she like sees him fall unconscious, dusts her hand, pours herself a drink by reflex, and knocks herself out too. But so yeah,
So her fit in this,
she
incredible.
goes
Phenomenal.
The clothes in this,
she goes,
Mummy says hello.
and I turn the spray bottle on myself.
You'll find it's empty. I've already used it all. Holding up the spray bottle and it's empty, like fucking Daniel Craig at the opening to Casino Royale, being like, "I know where you keep the spray bottle."
So Solo wakes up like, what is it now? Am I gonna be fucking like handcuffed to a pipe? Like fucking put in a steamer? What this time? And the answer is, nah, I'm just gonna like remind you that I'm a Nazi, like attach you to an electric chair, and then bring in like this girl's uncle, who is, by the way, like a Nazi torturer. And he like explains that he's a Nazi torturer with a montage of Hitler, in case you didn't know who Hitler was.
He says the words World War II, and then it has a World War II montage just to like catch you up, I guess. And I'm like, now I know what World War II is.
Yeah, because you're sort of a scholar of history, a gentleman
That's right.
scholar.
I'm a very attentive watcher of these movies, so I actually happen to know a thing or two about World War II.
We approach the big Alice note here because he shows Solo his like torture scrapbook, and he's like, this is where I've been torturing people. It's where I tortured people when I was a Nazi. Here's the blank page where I'm going to torture you. It's sort of like a bargain basement marathon man, right? And then he says, but it's not going to be in like black and white like all of these other pictures because of the miracle of Kodachrome. Now,
oh no, I didn't even pick this up. All right, go on.
Weimar and Nazi Germany, world pioneers of color film, Agfacolor Neu, introduced in 1936, discontinued in 1978 after this movie is set. If you look up Agfacolor, you can see color film photos of 1930s Europe, which is the most fucking hauntological shit you can imagine. This meant to be a scientist, man. You don't buy domestic, you're a Nazi. Like you're going to fucking the Eastman Kodak Corporation to be like, wow, these Americans who really knows their stuff about the color film. You didn't watch fucking UFA? Like, what kind of Nazi are you, for fuck's
Sadly,
sake?
Mr. Solo, this one will be in black and white again because Portra 800 is fucking arm and a leg these days.
No, but it's like this is a movie. This is a mistake that like fucking Tarantino wouldn't have made because he's the kind of dipshit who at least likes movies, whereas Guy Ritchie is sort of like this like overgrown hobbyist.
2023 version is like, you see, Mr. Solo, I shall yassify you to preserve your anonymity.
Yeah, so he straps him to the chair and he yassifies the fuck out of him. But like the running gag is the little pedal that he's got for electrocuting him doesn't work very well. It keeps getting like a short in it. So every time he tries to like electrocute Solo, like sometimes it works and then sometimes it doesn't. He's like, oh, for fuck's sakes, this is very embarrassing. And so there's Hennig Veins there.
But Ilya appears and rescues him.
Yeah.
And I quite like this because they're obviously like they can't really show the heroes just like killing this guy, even though he is a Nazi and a torturer and he definitely deserves it. And obviously the thing that we want to see as the audience is we want to see his own creation turned against him, right? So they put him in the electric chair and he, without being tortured, immediately gives up. He's just like, I will testify in court. I will tell you anything. I will like inform on anything you want to know. I'll tell you anything. And then like, so Ilya and Solo, Ilya and Solo then kind of leave the room and they kind of like have this discussion about what are we going to do with this guy? And Solo's like, well, you know, if he does inform in court, they're going to let him out in 6 months. And I really don't want to see that. Like, he even says he might end up getting paper clips. Like, he might end up working for the US. Like, this guy's going to go free. Yeah. I'm not really sure what to do about this. And in the background, the short has happened and like he's being electrocuted to death. Just like by chance. And it's like, okay, that is kind of quite funny.
No, it's really good. I really like it, actually. It's such a good way to get around the limitations of the heroes.
I'm surprised that they even did the CIA would hire this guy, but it's cool that they did. And what happens is he catches fire from being electrocuted too much, and sort of like they both turn to look, and they're not at all remorseful. And Solo really sells the sort of like, damn, left my coat in there. It's like it's good.
Like, it's actually really good. I like it a lot.
Yeah. So
I
Gabby
also
has
appreciate seeing a guy about to be tortured being like, hey, buddy, you don't need to do shit. I'm going to tell you everything I know right now. Because, like, that's me, baby.
Pliers.
Don't hurt me. I don't want to get hurt. I'll say anything. Yeah. People like to quote tweet people talking, like, about
torture couldn't
things
get
in their life. But it's like, you would not be able to get this out of me with torture. Wrong. Yes, they would. I would say this shit without torture.
They would get shit out of you with torture. You wouldn't say.
I would hate to be hurt.
All the libel stuff we cut out, we'd say it, and it's torture.
That shit would suck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you kidding me?
I'll call I'll do anything, whatever, you know.
All right, bleep that one.
Yeah. Also, I just to say, even when we were, even in the sections where we libeled, that was not what we said.
A bleep.
That's just simply
like two
not
very
what
precise bleeps.
So listeners, just as a peek behind the curtain, we sometimes post the episode in the group chat before we publish it and we like review it. I'm going to be reviewing this one very closely.
Fine-toothed fucking comb. I'll be going through this one.
So Gabby has like made friends with the Nazis because they think she's a Nazi because she's betrayed Ilya, who has like escaped with Solo at this point.
Yeah.
And they go to fucking Spectre Island in the middle of the Mediterranean.
This is so Bond.
A disputed island between Italy and Spain.
Russia.
Yeah. And at this point, she meets her dad. And a special feature at this point for German guy I love to see, because I end up watching a lot of German movies and German TV, so I just like have in my head a bunch of German character actors. Christian Berkel, from fucking like Downfall and a bunch of other shit. Like, he's her dad. And it's like, great, fantastic. He's doing Glorious Bastards, actually.
And also, we learn that Gabby's actually good.
Yeah.
Because she's like, don't worry, I'm here to help you dismantle the bomb, father. Like, we're going to set this right. And at this point, we get the reveal. So Solo and Ilya both get a call from their respective M's. It's like, go and meet Hugh Grant. And they get in a helicopter. He's like, yo, I'm Mr. Waverly. I work for British Naval Intelligence. Yo, infiltrate the island. You're working for me now. So's Gabby. Infiltrate the island. Find the scientist. Find the computer disk, which we forgot about from Act 1. Rescue Gabby. And also secretly, we see both Solo and Ilya get a message from their boss being like, retrieve the disc at all costs, kill your partner if you have
like
to.
in the multiplayer of Splinter Cell. But like, yeah, I enjoyed this. Hugh Grant does this all in a very sexy way, which is I'm not sure if the script calls for that, but he does.
You try to get Hugh Grant to not act a scene coyly. He can't do it. He doesn't know what to do at this point. He's in his Silver Fox era. I'm unbelievably horny for Hugh Grant.
Oh, please go off.
Just
speak on.
No, I don't need any more than that. Just fantastic. Just fantastic.
He also gets a great line with Ilya, where Ilya sort of like fluffs something obvious, and he's like, "I think you have this, don't you?"
Yeah, I do.
It's the special agent.
Special agent, you're not having a very special day, are you?
It's just nice.
Oh,
it's great.
BTFO, it's over.
It's a nice line, but it's a little bit too clearly for the trailer to me.
Yeah, well, there's a few in this sort of like in this third act. So he takes them to an aircraft carrier. At which point I go, "Oh, it's so cute. Britain thinks it's a military power."
I know, right?
Aircraft carrier, adorable.
Very modern looking.
Like, oh, you got a special boat. That's so sweet.
At this point, we kind of forget that we're in the 60s because a lot of the military tech and the technology and the cars start to look very modern. Like,
fucking Spitfires, come on, get a grip.
We also see that he's got some Marines with him, commanded by a guy inexplicably named Jockelson.
Very SBS name.
Yeah, and they're like, essentially
opinions.
the briefing here is do the last 20 minutes of like a Roger Moore Bond film. You know the one where Roger Moore and a bunch of like Navy guys like shoot ever living fuck out of the volcano base? Do that.
Do that.
But the thing is, right, two things happen. First of all, the way that this is filmed, Guy Ritchie,
Annoying
montage,
as fuck.
split screen bullshit. Why pick one shot when you can have 50 and they're all on screen at the same time?
I disagree. Here's my contention. I think it's good.
Okay.
I think it reminds me of OSS on the set, right? Like it's clearly like they're having fun with it more than anything else.
No.
I like it because this action, where the Marines are infiltrating the island, it doesn't actually matter. We don't care about this action because our main characters and the psychological conflict of the script are not involved. It's just a kind of like, we need to get to the next thing. So we can have this very
Don
slick,
Draper, that's
bloodless
what the
montage.
editor is for.
Well, yeah, but you can't cut this out, right? So we need to have the kind of excitement, like, here we go, cool, turning up the excitement of the action. But we don't really need to understand much of what's happening. Whereas the action that we get in the final confrontation is very fucking visceral, and it's very choreographed, and it's a totally different style. I think this works. I think it's a good, smart decision.
I don't think so.
We're quarate for it being good, by the way. Thank you.
I don't care. The other beef that I have is like,
you up.
Yeah, I do. I know. I do. It's so bad.
I also wrote down when they intercut one scene with another, I clap because they love to do it.
Like a seal would do.
Ooh, it's cinema. It's not cinema.
Small detail that only will bother me. The weapon handling, it's all modern. They move like Zero Dark 30, but if you go back and look at movies in the 60s, they didn't know what gun safety was. Fuck it, we saw Robert Vaughn pick up a pistol by every part of it, including the trigger, and point it at himself for an entire scene. They didn't know or care about this shit. They were just running around. And now everybody's fucking operator style. They've got shit at the high ready or whatever. Yeah. And it looks weird.
They should be doing wide legs, leaning over one hand, doing the dipshit posture.
Point shooting.
Shoot through the legs.
Isosceles stances.
Back in that day, they were still shooting by thrusting the gun forward in one hand.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Gabby and her father have been found out by Victoria. Victoria kills her dad. And it's just you will not sabotage the bomb, actually, because we're going to take the bomb and you and get away.
That's right.
Setting up a whole new chase scene.
Yeah, pretty sure this buggy that Solo drives is not 60s.
No.
I don't even know what's happening anymore at this point. Hey, it's really reverse
dragged.
cinema sins ding. Drags in the third act. Well done. Very accurate to Uncle. Starting to get quite annoying, even.
Yeah.
So we get a
We're
car
almost
chase.
done with it.
Ilya follows on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
It's Alexander is the guy who's driving it, Victoria's husband, who we haven't really known much about. He's kind of a minor villain.
It's kind of a
he's kinda
dipshit
nothing.
as well.
They get run off the road.
Yeah.
This is where we get the very visceral action. We get like a fist fight in the rain, and like Solo and Ilya manage to beat him.
Another
Yeah, it's
weird
a really
shot
good
of
ending for the
Alicia
movie.
Vikander's feet.
Mhm.
Yeah, it
It's a
is.
shame, but it isn't the ending of the movie.
They like recover the bomb, and then Hugh Grant goes, "Not so fast, dipshit. That's not the real
Sorry,
bomb."
guys, we got actually
That's
10 more
this-
minutes we need to fill.
That's what I wrote down. Hugh Grant walks in and goes, "I'm sorry, guys. There's a bit more movie left." And they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, fuck."
Yeah, it's more movie. Everyone puts their head in their hands.
They recover the warhead, but it's the wrong one. It's not
it's like
nuclear.
coupled to it, but it's like, yeah, whatever, fine. They go back to the aircraft carrier. I go, oh, always very undignified to show a naval officer in shorts. And we do the classic cop movie thing of we can trace the call, but you got to keep them talking. You got to keep them on the phone. Where Solo has to like, in order to like fire the one non-nuclear bomb at the nuclear bomb and kill Victoria, he's got to keep Victoria on the phone. And we get the ultimate line that's just put in for the fucking trailer.
How's that for entertainment?
That's right before she blows up, by the way. It's like really smug and annoying. Also, the other thing, he does the ultimate Guy Ritchie flashback here, which is he shows us how they're going to do this. And then 30 seconds later, after having shown us how they're going to do that, does the like, this is how it's going to happen. And what really annoys me is he plays what I've come to think of as the Guy Ritchie thinks you're a moron flashback music that undergirds every flashback.
It's fucking annoying, is what it is.
It's this.
While you've been telling me how dangerous you are, we've been locking onto your radio signal.
Like anytime you want to convey, this guy's outwitting you, like anything, fucking hustle, leverage, any like scam shows, like this guy's smart.
You missed this because we didn't show it to you. Aren't you an imbecile? No, you didn't show it to me.
Yeah.
I'm watching the movie. Like, again, I cannot stress enough that you're in charge of what I see.
That's the whole deal. That's what I pay you for. Like,
that's literally the point of this.
I
as a
didn't even
visual
miss
art form.
You just showed me it. I put it together, and then you went, I bet you didn't put this together, did you, dipshit? And I was like, no, I fucking did.
What would you giving me? If I had put this together, I would be some kind of like psychic genius.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way you put this shit together.
They foreshadow the like coupler thing. They show the guy who took the coupler thing out of the thing, putting it into something, and we don't see what. Like, how would that not? It's well, yeah, whatever. Listen, give me this one, and I will like concede that the other one is like well shot or whatever.
Oh, also when Victoria, I'll give you this one. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
When Victoria gets blown up in this scene, she's wearing a Versace headscarf. Iconic. I love it. Like all her fits in this. Beautiful.
Yeah, no, she's absolutely serving cunt,
like dripped,
start to
like,
finish. I swear.
Sure.
So
at this point, Solo has the little disc thing. Kuryakin doesn't. They go back to the hotel, and Kuryakin is told in no uncertain terms by his M, go and get it, otherwise you're just like your dipshit father. And he like hears the Russian music, and he goes Kyle mode, and he smashes up his hotel room because that's what you do when you're psychotic.
Before this, though, Gabby comes to him and says, "Okay, goodbye. You're going back to Russia. I'm obviously not going back to East Berlin. I'm a spy." And she gives him the engagement ring back, which we have established has a tracker in it. And he says, "Keep it." And we get this moment of like, oh, they're about to kiss, but they get interrupted again. And she leaves, and it's like, oh, they would have been nice. I just wanted to highlight the fact that she leaves. This is her like, I'm leaving the movie now. Goodbye. Just wanted to like put a pin in that.
Yeah,
false endings.
Correct.
We love to do them. But so the thing is, a psychotic episode is when you get really angry, but you're also able to like stay composed looking.
Mm-hmm.
So he like stays composed looking. No. He like walks himself down to Solo's room, so like visibly fuming, but not like, punching holes in drywall, right? Sees the disc and is like,
having a mental illness means that you just like get a bit weird for a minute or two.
That's true.
It's like it's just like, I mean, if you're gonna put it in your movie, you should probably check what the symptoms are. Just like, I don't know, step one, maybe looking at that.
That Guy Ritchie doesn't give a shit, and the guy who wrote the Harry Potter movies doesn't give a shit.
Tell you what, though, this scene is good. I like the tension here. Well, Ilya comes in and it's like, oh, we're saying goodbye, like shaking hands, like we're friends. And Solo like realizes that Ilya is probably here to like get the disc, and like Solo's like pretending to
I'm
pack his
surprised
suitcase,
they
but
didn't
he's like
flash back to the phone call.
he's like arranging his gun and stuff. It's really tense actually. And then we
drinking
think
Johnny Walker Black Label, which they make sure to point towards the camera like 8 times, and I'm like, all right, I get it.
We think that Solo's about to pull out his gun and shoot Ilya, but then he pulls out the watch that Solo found. He found his father's watch on a goon.
In order to set this up, they have to have a shot in the middle of the gunfight where he just sees it on a dude earlier, and it's just like, neat. Like, I'll be having that, which is really funny.
I'm surprised that we don't flash back to that at this point.
Yeah. And flashback again to like, he took my father's watch thing. Flashback to the beginning of the movie. Show it all again. I forgot who these people are.
Don't you trust what I'm watching, Guy? Do you not believe that I'm watching the movie?
Guy makes movies for people who are like also on their phones.
Yeah, that's true. But so we don't see the compromise they come to, but we then come to them.
Yeah,
on the,
which is really annoying because I'm like, that is the completion of the character arc. You can't not show that.
That's apotheosis. Like, you can't skip that bit.
There wasn't space.
They needed that's the most important one.
There wasn't space. They had to have the 50 different shots at once.
Did you
of the
lose
Marines.
that page of the script? Like, what happened? That's the most important bit of the film.
Doesn't matter.
This made me so upset.
They're drinking their Johnny Walker Black Label on the terrace. They have set the little cassette tape thing on fire. And Hugh Grant comes out and is like, I see you've kissed and made up. Cool.
Also, Gabby is now back.
Also, she's here again.
Yeah, she's here.
You know how she left the movie and it was kind of like, oh, that's a shame. It's really sad. Now she's just here. No lines in this scene, but she's here.
It's time to do the sequel because I've been allowed to borrow you some more, and it's called Uncle. Where are we going next? And this actually, by the way, manages to include a fine uncle tradition, which is ending on a Waverly non sequitur, where if you remember our classics of I suppose I'll be dead soon, this is kind of up there because it's both out of left field and also racist. He goes, we're going to Istanbul next.
You'll need your curly-whirly shoes.
What?
You'll need your curly-whirly shoes.
A good movie should leave you like with questions, right? The second it cuts to black, you should be in the cinema like thinking about the movie, and the main thing you want to be thinking is what?
Curly whirly shoes.
That's what you want to cultivate in an audience.
You could wear those in Istanbul.
It is earnest and genuine confusion.
Then the editor has to include a shot of the curly whirly shoes in the credits, just so
just to be like, by the way, just to be clear.
The one thing I do like is that the final shot of the movie is the reverse shot to them, and like all three of them are like, oh fuck, not again, which I do like.
Yeah, it's the same as the previous Man from U.N.C.L.E. movie, where they were like, sequel coming, and everyone involved went, oh, and then they didn't do the sequel.
Here's the thing, right? I still really want a sequel to this because we don't let movies suck ass anymore, right? Like,
we don't.
Okay, on a critical level, like, sure, everyone who can like write a review hates a Marvel movie, but they make like $infinity trillion, so that's the only kind of movie that gets made, right? We don't have the sort of like economic boom times of, fucking 2015, if that's saying anything, where studios would be like, no, this is gonna like lose a shitload of money. Fine, whatever. It takes you 3 movies to learn how to get good at making movies. We'll just like eat the first 2. And we'll just kind of like drive brand loyalty, whatever. The truest, like the most honest sort of like studio system thing you could do with this would be recast Armie Hammer's role, explain nothing about it, say nothing, and just make another one.
Yeah,
I'd be really interested to see like why this film bombed, because sometimes films bomb for reasons that are like nothing to do with the film. It's because actually something else came out that month, or because like it got like fucked by the marketing department. That's actually a really common thing for minority-led films. Is the film will be really good, but because it's minority-led, the marketing department will get like 5p to market it, so no one goes to see it. So I'd be really into, or like because there was a fucking pandemic, or like because it came out like the same as this. So I'd be really interested to see a post-mortem. I'm like, well, was it the brand? Was it because the film wasn't good?
I mean, they really tried to hype this up as a franchise in the movie itself. I don't know about the marketing. They lost like $80 million on this.
That's a lot of money to lose. And it's like, is that because the film is bad, or like what happened?
worse movies have been like more successful at starting franchises. And I think the thing is, right, that like there isn't really diversity. It's difficult to see a like mid movie made on this budget anymore, like in the sort of like $100 million range, because everyone wants sure things and everyone wants sequels. And so you can either go see like a zero budget indie thing. You can go watch like an Ulrich Seidel movie and want to kill yourself, or you can watch like Avengers, Ant-Man, Endgame, and want to kill yourself.
God,
No, it's fine.
No, I've just looked.
Do not watch an Ulrich Seidel movie. Do not watch Sparta. You will want to kill yourself.
Yeah, I just
Don't
went
watch
to
Rimini either. You want to kill yourself.
Just went to Movie Insider to find the other movies that released in August 2015. And obviously this thing was never going to bang because it was released at about the same time as Hitman Agent 47, which obviously soaks up most of the
titans of the box office.
So I'm looking it up as well. Apparently there was like almost no marketing for it.
There was no other good movies that came out at this point. Fantastic Four? Oh god. Oh no.
Grim.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F. Come on. I mean,
Yeah. Was it because of Army Hammer? Had he been cancelled by then?
No. Not for like a while afterwards. He was only cancelled like he filmed Death on the Nile. He filmed his parts in that. That it took like 2 years, but like he was filming that in like 2020 and then got cancelled in like I think 2021.
I mean, I got to be honest with you, man. I'm looking at this right now. There was no other movies.
No, it was. It went up against Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation.
Fuck me to yeah.
Came out in
July.
August in like summer when everyone's outside.
Tom Cruise and his fucking feet.
Yeah, you're right.
This movie.
End of July. Mission Impossible.
I love movies. Piece of shit. Killed the man from U.N.C.L.E.
I can't believe he
No
killed
justice.
the man from U.N.C.L.E.
And apparently some people are saying maybe they overestimated Henry Cavill's star power at the time, that now he's got a lot of star power. But at the time, people went to see Superman because it was Superman. And people
Came
kind
out
of
at the same time as
mistakenly...
Smosh the movie. Sorry, I'm going to close this tab. I need to not look at this anymore.
Listen, Henry, assuming you're listening, right?
Which you are.
Just
First of all, DM me regarding Warhammer. I'll talk for hours.
Yeah, exactly. Get Avi cast and everything, but also just fucking like have him make. I realize you have like less power to do this than I think you do. Just fucking have him make a sequel, please.
Yeah.
Like we
After
need
you've
more
done your
middling
Warhammer.
shit. Yeah.
We'll write it.
Because we
cast
need,
us.
this is a niche. This is a niche in the cinema that like sort of needs to exist. It's like a healthy part of the ecosystem. This sort of like bumbling tapir like animal that like it's fine. You don't feel bad after you've seen it. It's okay.
Like genuinely, right now, we are like those posts for like, I made an AI watch 1,000 hours of X and now they've generated a script. I've seen all the Man from U.N.C.L.E.s within the last like 2 months. They're all fucking right here. I could spit a script out in like 10 minutes, no problem.
Oh yeah,
Do this.
yeah,
Like,
no
cast
question.
us.
I always feel bad for people when they put a lot of effort and time into something like this, and then it doesn't do well for reasons that have nothing to do with that. It's like it's about the marketing or the release schedule. It's like because somebody in an office somewhere who doesn't understand art fucked up, and it's like
It's so sad.
It's a shame.
It's frustrating, but it's sad too. Like it's sort of borderline hauntological to like watch a movie that's like, and here's the sequel hook, sort of really optimistically, and then just kind of like falls flat on its face. It's like, no, I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. I wish you would have had a different director, but we were rooting for you. You know?
I'm sure they'll try again at some point.
I hope so. I really hope so. And I hope it doesn't take another like 15 years like it did with this one, you know? Or 25 years since the 15 Years Later affair. So the rights are out there, you know, they're floating around. And I hope that like people can sort of like drive it forward. Because I'm not really done with The Man from U.N.C.L.E., even though we are, you know? I would quite happily go back to it. So I mean, that sort of leads me to closing thoughts, both for this movie and also for this. Dare we call it a season of Kill James Bond?
Yeah, this series.
Yeah, season 2.
Hey,
season 2 completed.
I don't imagine so. I think there's still more spy movies. I think season 3 is when we move genre to
Oh, robbery season.
Robbery season. So this is like a little micro section. I still want to do Mission Impossible at some point, even though that might be difficult because everyone's still working. I think it's been good to do a season that's started and essentially wrapped up in the 60s because it lets us all talk freely. I have other ideas for seasons we can do, but like this has been an absolute treat. First of all, thank you, Abby, for sharing these movies with me.
Absolutely.
And
I
Uncle
was
Pilling
skeptical
me.
at first, and I shouldn't have been. I was so wrong. You know.
Oh, I'm glad, guys. Yeah, I really
I was
had
like,
fun with
this is like silly TV stuff, but I was completely. I have been Uncle Pilled comprehensively.
They're so close to Bond. Like,
Yeah. Oh, they're just good.
It's a good time, and I really have a weakness for this kind of like retro 60s aesthetic stuff. I like it, and like, you know, there's not enough stuff that really like goes with it. Even like I played the fuck out of Deathloop, even though it was kind of like hit or miss, because again it was retro 60s and kind of middling. And kind of like in a middling budget niche, and I think that's just something that really, really appeals to me.
I love the silliness of this series, and I also think that this podcast, to getting my content creator brain on, I think this podcast works really well when we do like silly on one feed and serious on the other. And like sometimes we swap those around. So we've been doing a run of like, well, not including My Little Pony, we've been doing a run of like quite serious films on the bonus feed. We did like Lives of Others.
It's about 9/11.
We did like the Lives of Others and a bunch of other like quite heavy ones, like All About My Mother and so on. So I like getting that contrast in.
I agree.
What are we going to do next? Do we know?
Not 100%.
I would like to do Mission Impossible. Is the thing. I realize it might be the thing is. Abby you might be a bit hamstrung by that, but the thing is, I really want to talk about Tom Cruise and his fucking thetans, and you can just kind of like remain tactically silent as necessary.
I think this is maybe an off mic.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It's difficult when people are like major producers.
I'll simply
Content
bring us
strategies
back in
are hard
here,
to put together.
That's fair. I'll simply say then that
So we have a science-based system.
we have a science-based system.
We have a science-based system.
Does anyone else want? Yeah, we have a science-based system.
Just flashing
the
back
scum
to us
system.
saying it. We have a science-based system.
It's a science-based system. It's called the SCUM system. It stands for SMARM, Cultural Insensitivity, Unprovoked Violence, and Misogyny. How smarmy is this movie? I count flashbacks for SMARM. I count sort of
how
lines
much is
that are
the
in there
film
for the
sucking
trailer for
itself
SMARM.
off? Yeah,
The
you're
film's
right.
sucking itself off hard.
A great deal.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think about flashing back to something you showed 30 seconds ago, and I think that takes it to a 7.
I think I agree.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fuck it, 100%.
Cultural insensitivity.
It just kind of doesn't really have any cultural texture whatsoever. It's like Italians are either fascist or rude in bathrooms. Germans are Nazis.
It's pretty fucking white.
Pretty accurate
It is.
regarding Italians and Germans. But
Yeah, sure.
Are there
I'm
any-
sure Nate Buffet
Are there any
pointed out
named characters of color who like get to do significant
No.
things or like
I
have
don't even
arcs
think
or...
there are any unnamed characters of color.
What about the concierge lady? I don't know.
No.
I guess. I don't know. We're not sort of like this is a peril of cultural insensitivity, so we get into sort of like phrenology on like
Are
actors who don't
Italians
have any
white
lines.
this day? Let's
Being like,
consult the man
what
from Uncle
shape is
Tile.
your skull?
Once
Answer me.
again.
Are Italians white? Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, this is set in the 60s in Europe, which was not a fantastic time, but also at the same time, if you look at people, most people aren't white. So a
I'll tell you
lack of
something else.
anyone who is non-white in a movie
Also,
is...
I will point out that the man from
You
Uncle
know what
series
was-
in
Yes,
the 60s
Yes, I was about to
was
say
occasionally,
this.
but not
was
always.
more diverse than
but
this.
occasionally better.
They had like black agents.
Yeah, they had, like,
on-screen
Yeah,
agents
and
in the
the
60s.
guys from the like foreign country who were portrayed as like having nuanced takes on colonialism, like, and in a way that is kind of how like white supremacy is perpetuated, is through whiteness being seen as the transparent default. So I'm inclined to give it, to judge it quite harshly for that
a
reason.
sin of
Yeah.
omission.
As always, by
Yeah.
omission
Yeah,
is
because, you know-
baseline 4.
But by the 20-teens, we should really know better for this.
Yeah, it is remarkable that it's 2015.
Mhm.
I mean, what are we thinking here as a sort of baseline?
I don't think I can go lower than a 4.
Yeah.
I was about to
As
say
always,
4,
omission
yeah.
is baseline 4, at the very least.
All right.
If it's not actively like maintaining bad stereotypes.
Yeah,
It's
really
hard to
should,
go higher
should
than that.
know
But,
better.
but like it's bad, man.
Unprovoked violence.
Also, I mean, how could I forget? Of course,
You'll need your curly whirly shoes.
yes, of course.
just
yeah.
got to put it up to a 5.
Yeah, all right, you wanna-
Just on
all right,
its
yeah,
own.
that's fine.
So like, yeah, there's a
Five it is.
fucking what?
Unprovoked
sorry.
violence.
I mean, like they accidentally kill Mr. Torture Man.
He's a Nazi. That's fine.
Solo's shown trying to like kill Ilya in the first thing, and it really like lingers on that one. And he doesn't really like get confronted with it or anything. It's just like part of his job.
Well, it is part of his arc that he ends up saving his life, and he goes from being
That
quite cold and a
specific
loner
guy,
to
though.
being, So the film in a way does kind of pass judgment on that, given that it's something he moves away from. I'm struggling to think of anything.
Again, I think only with that
nothing's really coming to mind.
guy, though. It's like don't kill a guy if you end up being besties with him. It's like not a great lesson. But yeah, I think pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a one or two. Two.
Sure, yeah, I can do too.
Misogyny. Oh, it's high, both in omission and commission. It's sort of like very much trying to do the 60s misogyny, but again, you go back and look, the 60s stuff often less misogynistic, insanely.
Yeah.
Every woman in this like only like uses sex for deception or like for fun, admittedly, but like they don't really have that much sort of like depth beyond that.
Mm-hmm. And I guess as well, it kind of gets to me as an actress. I watch films like this and I'm like, you are only allowed to be in films like this as a woman if you are sexy in a very specific way. So
Sure.
I like to think I am on occasion a fairly attractive woman. However, I am not sexy in the way that these women are sexy, because I am like 6'1" and broad shouldered, and they don't make designer clothes that have like my body shape. So it's like you have to be sexy in the very specific way that men like. And that is
Sure. So like sort of 90 pounds, 5'3".
yeah.
Being able to like put your feet on stuff kind of way.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's real bad.
It is.
And I don't want to sort of like even take points off of
Are
it
there,
for
like,
being like,
any
oh, the
older
evolution of the
women in
candidate
this?
agency or whatever. No. Fuck no.
Yeah, women only exist if
They
we're like
could have
very
fucking made Waverly a woman, and it would have been as progressive as a James Bond movie made in 1997. You know?
Yeah, that would have been a fucking reveal. If like we think Hugh Grant is Waverly, and then it turns out he's just like Mrs. Waverly's husband and is just a normal dude, and Mrs. Waverly is the again, I'm like 2015. We
Let
should
us
know
write
better.
this shit. Let us cook.
Yeah,
Let us cook.
we should know better by 2015. Really, I'm
Mhm.
inclined to. I'm in a bit of a nasty mood with this film now, so I'm inclined to give it at
Fine,
least a 5.
I'd go 6.
You want to go for a 6? All right.
Yeah, it doesn't like show any like sexual assaults on screen or anything, which is what we've typically given like 7s and 8s for.
True.
But it's up there in terms of like sort of like casual disregard.
In that case, that gives it a total score of 20, which isn't good, and definitely makes it, I think, the worst of the Man from U.N.C.L.E. films. Yes, it does.
I think that's fair.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of
I think it
politics,
is.
at least,
I
I did
mean-
have fun watching it. But yeah, when you stop thinking about it, I'm like,
I still enjoyed it. I remembered it sort of more fondly than I ended up feeling about it in hindsight. But yeah. I think this is one of those things though where you gotta like give it a few movies to like get good, and it never got the chance to do that.
Yeah.
Like,
It never found its feet properly. It never found its little
No.
niche.
I think
you got,
going
like,
forward, I'm
2 hours.
gonna be a little bit more harsh on films for the way they depict kind of female sexiness, because
Yeah.
especially like current day or like recent ones.
as someone, I'm starting to get to know my casting a little bit better, and like the kind of roles that I'm going up for, and not getting as well. I mean, like, oh, okay, like this is the kind of woman that you have to be in the industry, and it is still in some ways very limited.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
Sad. Well, that's us for The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah.
We're done with it. We will return with a new series once we figure out what that's going to be. And we might have to like fill time in sort of in the meantime while
Yeah,
the
we
three
could
of
do like a
us,
bit of
attack each other physically, bite each other's wrists,
Oh,
things
hey.
of this nature backstage.
When does this one come out? This one comes out on Wednesday the 29th. Then it'll be a bonus on Wednesday the 5th. Then the 12th is the day before we do our Austin Powers live shows. If we vamp
like,
for one episode,
Yeah,
we can
we
just
could do, like,
release
a
the
road.
Austins for next season.
Is there like a
certainly
one
Yeah, we
a
could
one
just do,
shot
like, a
spy movie we could
one-film
do?
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll find you like a one-shot spy movie.
we could do
no
Gilgal the
problems there.
Professional or some shit.
Yeah. All right.
Right
Well,
back.
in that case, it only remains for me to say.
Well, in that case, it only
we have
remains
a
for me to
Patreon.
say.
Oh, it only
It's-
remains for me to
it's-
say that fucking we've got Patreon.
Not bloody Patreon.
I don't know.
Flashing back
I'm
to
very
show you the
sorry.
Patreon.
Whoa.
Full setup from the start.
Flashing back to the first episode. Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Kill James Bond. Yeah, we have a Patreon. You get a bonus episode. Wait a second. Did you just fucking?
Mummy says hello.
Stop it. Stop.
Yes,
Cease.
she
Cease now.
does.
Cease.
Goodbye.
Okay, fine.
I command you to
Goodbye.
stop.
Bonus, just fine. Bye.
Been spending a lot of time in bathrooms recently.
Thank you for listening to yet another episode of Kill James Bond. The final uncle. Oh, what a tragedy. We leave it behind with nothing but love in our hearts. We're probably going to vamp for one episode and then release the Austin Powers live shows as the next free series over the next couple of weeks. So tune in 2 weeks' time to find out what we decide to go with as our one-off free episode. But if 2 weeks is simply too long for you to wait, you can head on over to our Patreon, where we have another Q&A coming out next week. You have asked your Qs, we have already A'd them, and that is ready to be released. It's a good one. We have a nice chat. I think you're going to enjoy it a great deal. And it's one that we can't ever unlock because we do too much industry chat. You know the way of things. And of course, that can be found on our Patreon, patreon.com/killjamesbond. And I would be remiss if I did not say thank you to our £15 and above patrons. And those are Candy Fox, Freya Aloysius, Gustavo Lira, Jack Holmes, Mike Berg, Hannah Oberhart, Nick Boris, Kentucky Fried Commie, George Rohak, Yarrick, Nato Mori, Cohen Enright, Devon Secret Nemesis, Drone Lover, Labor Delenda Est, a girl named Kat, Peter McDonald, Ozymandias, Library Hitman, Beef Crime, Max Gamenhart, Callan Burney, Jack Drummond, Jonathan Gerdes, Hell, Jay Martindale, Lysamesh. Have you considered that enough people have subscribed now that I'm really struggling to maintain the sort of low-key vibe that I tried to cultivate with the jazz outro, because now I need to read out 67 names. Jonathan Curtis Hell, Jay Martindale, Lysa Maish, Harrison Fuller, Top O, Mothman, Trip, Big Titty Goth Girl, Kit Divine, Isopod Gal, Clara, Alex, Violet Cyber, Katie Probes, Andrew 95, Men's Room Louie, Liz and Ash, a trans robot, Wolfscott, Ronan, Connor's cool big sister, Annie, Ruby, Saphira, Corvid Cultist, Johnny Del Camino, Alma Blue, Zoe Shepherd, Army Hammer presents Cannibal Corpse. Nice, nailed it. Spawn. Elizabeth Cox, Josie, Finn Ross, Roll History Pod, Quinn Valeri, Loz, Pycock, Alfredo, Artemis Potter and Elizabeth Ball, Al Irwin, Turfsy Shit and Die Alone, Wolfie, Millie, Robert Greensmith, Josh Simmons, and Lauren Baston. Kill James Bond is Alice, Abigail, and Devon. Our producer is the wonderful Nate Thay, and our podcast art is by Matty Lubchansky. I've done too many recordings, and I'm now like sort of 48% drunk at 12:41 in sort of about midday. So now I have to go on with my life. So let's see how that works. Anyway, see you next time. Love you. Mwah.